I clock in 15 minutes early because the tower punishes surprises. The cabin is already awake. The relay rack ticks beside me, measured, patient, little amber eyes blinking one after another. Under it runs the code line. A single held note in the floor and the studs in the steel desk. 2 sounds. That's the pulse and the breath. I don't need more. Cold oil sits in the air. Damp stone lifts through the concrete. When I slide 2 fingers under the blind, the ballast outside looks wet enough to drink the night. The glass shivers once. Not a draft. One clean ring that makes my molars hum, like someone said my name very softly on the other side. It stops. I don't check the yard twice. People who do don't sign the books. I hang my coat on the hook that never dries. Headset around my neck, not on my ears. The mic boom stays pointed away from my mouth, angled like a finger that could shush me if it wanted. The Night Rules laminate is pinned under a sun-faded winged wheel decal, company heraldry in a tired green. One spoke has peeled. A thumbtack through paper keeps it down. I press the corner flat anyway and feel the old glue give like a blister. Mimic board on. Green washes my hands, turns the veins into little rivers under skin. The section lamps light where they should, tight red where red belongs, steady green where green is earned. I leave the overhead tubes half dead. Flicker is a liar's light. The panel's glow tells me true. I set the logbook in the same square of desk where the laminate has worn the paint smooth. The spine never bothered to be straight. When I open it, the paper lifts in waves where wet fingers turned pages years ago. We don't get new books. New makes people forget. Old reminds them what their hands did. Day shift left me notes. Marta's block letters aimed like rails. Home too sticky, greased. Crossing bell false rang 1745, no movement. Logged. Under that, Harlan wrote the one word he uses when he thinks a thing is finished because he decided it so. Set. I initial beneath with the minutes past the hour. The pen spits a dot and I rub it into my pants seam where I rub every dot. That seam is a black ladder of old mistakes. Checklist. Out loud. Steady. The way the room likes to be spoken to. Track circuits. Pick up. Axle counters. 0. Interlocking. Normal. Local control engaged. Battery float 12.7. Numbers land where they should. A breath fogs the mimic board for a snapped halo around a lamp, then fades. The section lamps don't blink. Block instrument, wood rubbed soft by 100 knuckles. I test the latch bite with a knuckle. Dogging pins seated, levers numbered left to right, each with its scar of paint and teeth marks. My hand stops over number 7 without meaning to. The cap is clean in a way dust can't explain. I move on. Headset ear cups turned outward, mic parked on the far side of the desk. The laminate rules sit under my palm. The plastic is cool, just a little greasy with old coffee in the air. 4 lines, short enough to memorize on the stairs. Short enough to throw away if you think the night is like the day. I don't say them yet. I don't have to. The relay says them. 1 click per promise. The hum says them without words. The window gives me the yard in frames. Signal heads hang their colors like punctuation. The throat of the interlocking holds still, black as a blown pupil. Wind calms the grass between ties and pushes pebbles against the tower's base with a dry tick. Far off, a points motor whines once and goes to sleep again. I let it be. I keep my head pointed at the 2 sounds I trust. Relay. Hum. A smear on the inside cover catches my eye. Pencil, not pen. Faint enough to be a shadow. The line is short, cramped. The hand uncertain, don't forget 7. No date. I knew whose hand wrote it. I won't write the name. The graphite shines when I tilt it. My thumb smudges it a fraction before I think to leave it alone. Gray stays on my skin. I log the time. I don't log the note. I think about the last shift that missed a line. Not a story we tell out loud. Not the kind you hang a lesson on like a coat. Just wait. I keep my breathing shallow until my ribs stop complaining and the code line threads through them again. The chair accepts me with a dry creak and settles. I line the pen with the margin and write what I'm supposed to write. Date. time, weather, personnel, status. My letters are small and neat. Like loud handwriting might pull something closer. I read the line once and dot the I twice just to see the ink land. Wind presses once more. The glass doesn't ring. I take that as agreement. I take that as a warning. I lay my palm on the rules, the laminate flexes, a tiny give like skin, and cold walks up the heel of my hand into my wrist. We don't come here to believe in anything. We come here to keep things working that don't forgive us when they stop. We keep voices out by keeping circuits alive. We keep doors shut by keeping our seats. We keep names out of our mouths. We keep our hands off number 7 unless a hand we don't see puts theirs on first. The relay ticks once more, then once again. The code line leans into its note. The room is listening. So I speak the part that matters, not for me, but for whatever else listens with it. We keep the section lamps alive to keep ourselves alive. Start with Rule 1. Ryan shows up 20 minutes into the shift. Lanyard crooked, shirt untucked, eyes red from what he calls studying. He comes through the stairwell door with too much air in his lungs. New ones always do. They think the tower is just another late job. His boots scuff the grating and the cabin hears him before I do. The relay chatter skips once, then steadies. Marta is on console tonight. Hair tied short, sleeves rolled neat. Clipboard already half filled with her block letters. She doesn't look up when Ryan drops into the second chair. She just pushes the log toward him, pen balanced on top like a scalpel. "Read back," she says. Ryan grins, the grin of someone who thinks rules are icebreakers. He taps the board like he's knocking on a neighbor's wall. Expressed to nowhere, cleared and ready. He'd heard it somewhere. They always do. Marta doesn't smile. Exact wording. Ryan rolls his eyes, mutters something halfway between the line and a joke. I watch her jaw tighten. The pen digs deeper against the page. New hands forget that paper outlasts breath. Harlan stands by the lever bank. Arms folded. Gray hair tied back with a string that looks older than the paint on the handles. He hasn't moved since Ryan came in. The levers stand tall as organ pipes, each scarred from years of being thrown. Each one obedient, except the one we don't mention. Harlan's eyes stay fixed on it, like he's listening for something under the hum. The cabin smells different with 3. More coffee, more sweat, less space. The overheads buzz louder, or maybe the air just holds noise longer when voices mix. I shift in my chair. The logbook spine presses against my wrist like it wants to be opened again. On the back wall, behind Ryan's restless shoulders, the notice board catches a wash of green from the mimic panel. Among safety bulletins and half-torn timetables, one sheet is older, yellowed at the edges, thumbtacked at a tilt. Black block letters over a faded winged wheel logo. Service suspended. Aug 1979. No one reads it aloud. No one takes it down. Ryan swivels in the chair to look. That when you guys mothballed the Express, what was it, 7? Marta doesn't answer. She corrects his readback again, tone flat. He sighs, repeats it properly. The smirk stays, but only at the edge of his mouth. The mimic board flickers once. A quick cough of light in the corner circuits. I glance at the CCTV monitor in the rack. It jumps, one frame dropping into static and back. For half a second, the yard outside is washed white like lightning, but no thunder follows. Then the grade crossing bell strikes, 2 sharp rings, the kind meant for drivers at a road crossing, not for us. The yard is empty, no axle count, no headlight, no vibration under the floor. Just the bell, and then silence so fast it bruises the ear. The floor gives a tick under my boots, then goes still. Ryan laughs under his breath. Phantom train, huh? He looks around for someone to catch it. No one does. Marta doesn't look away from her clipboard. Her pen just stops moving. Harlan finally stirs. He steps to the levers and lays a heavy hand on one in the middle. Number 7. Its paint is worn bare along the grip. Not chipped like the others, polished, used. His thumb rests on the smooth steel, not moving. Somebody's been pulling this, he says. Gravel in his voice. Not accusation, not warning, just fact. Ryan's grin falters. He glances at the CCTV, then back at the notice board. His boot taps once against the grating. The sound rings too long, like the floor wants to keep it. The mimic board's lamps hold steady. Relay chatter ticks like teeth. The code line hum sits low and endless. But the air presses heavier. My chest feels it first. My ears fill. I log the time in the book, neat without comment. The ink lands. The page stays flat. Outside, the crossing bell arm twitches once in the windless yard, stops. Inside, the glow of the red and green lamps reflects on the glass. For an instant, Ryan's face is split clean down the middle, one side drowned in green, the other cut by red. We keep our hands steady, we keep our voices exact, we keep our eyes on the lamps. And I keep thinking about lever. Number 7. Polish like somebody still throws it when no one's watching. The door check rings at 2:14 a.m., one short buzz, like a palm pressed to the crash bar. We all hear it. Marta's pen freezes mid-stroke. Harlan's eyes slide from the lever bank to the steel door at the stairwell landing. My stomach knows before my head does. Ryan isn't in his chair. The grating under my boots feels wider when I stand. The air smells wrong. Not just coffee and damp stone, something metallic. The tang of brake dust without the train. I cross to the door. The small inspection slot shows nothing but black yard. Still, the handle is warm. I throw the deadbolt and run the chain through the latch. Steel bites steel, loud in the cramped room. The code line hum thickens, like it's listening harder. Behind me, a sound rolls through the yard. Not the clean horn of a jet taxiing. Not even the deep groan of a train throttle. This is closer. Smaller, sharper. The clank of a coupler hitting metal, like two cars joining. The floor plate shivers. Marta whispers a curse in Spanish, soft as pencil graphite. Clash. I check the mimic board. Section lamps steady, except one. The block just short of signal mast 7 flickers, dips to black, then steadies again. Relay chatter skips. On the axle counter display, digits jump from 0 to 2 without any wheel detected. Then drop back to 0. A phantom train passing through a circuit that says the track is empty. Harlan steps forward, hand hovering over lever. Number 7. He doesn't touch, he doesn't need to. The polish on the steel is still there, glinting faint green from the mimic lamps. Where the hell is he? Marta hisses. No one answers. I flip the CCTV switch for Yard West. The monitor jumps alive, rolling static across the glass. Grain holds for a moment, then clears. The ballast outside looks slick, though no rain fell. Shadows cut across the ties in ways that don't belong to any light source we own. There, Ryan. He's in the frame, 30 yards out, walking the running rails like a balance beam. Shoulders back, hands loose, like he's following something only he can hear. His lanyard catches the mimic board's glow, a thin white thread bobbing in the dark. I pick up the mic. My thumb hovers over the transmit key. Rule 1 stops me cold. Stay inside. My voice dies in my throat. On the monitor, Ryan doesn't turn back. The ballast under his boots lifts in small clouds, rolling like something heavy slides beneath. For an instant, the dust doesn't fall back. It hangs in the air, then drifts sideways, drawn down the track toward mast 7. Marta's breath fogs the glass between us and the yard feed. She presses her knuckles against her teeth. Call him back, she whispers. He won't hear us, Harlan says. His voice is stone. On the mimic board, the block at mast 7 drops out again. Red goes dark, green goes blind. Relay chatter silences one by one. Like dominoes pushed. The code line hum cuts lower, almost gone. Axle counter, 02020. My pen rolls across the desk, trembling with each jump. Ryan steps into the camera's blind corner. The lens tries to follow but has no motor. All it catches is ballast, darker than it should be, pulling in a slow spiral, like water circling a drain. His boots vanish into it ankle first, like he's wading through sand. Then he's gone. No stumble, no scream. One frame he's walking. Next frame, ballast swirls empty between the rails. The dust curls once like steam off hot iron, then collapses flat. The coupler sound comes again, closer this time, clank. The floor under us jolts once, the chair legs clattering. Section lamps blink back to life one after another, all but mast 7, which stays black. Marta finally moves. She lunges toward the door, but I block her with my shoulder. The chain rattles in the latch. Rule 1 bites down harder than instinct. My pulse pounds against my teeth, but I don't open. The CCTV screen hisses into static. For a second, just before the image collapses, the grain shapes itself into something like a headlight beam cutting across Ryan's face. Except he isn't there to wear it. I log the time. My handwriting staggers, ink pooling where I press too hard. Marta paces behind me, muttering that we should have gone after him. Harlan doesn't move. His eyes stay fixed on lever number 7. Outside, the ballast lies flat again, like it never moved. Inside, the cabin smells of hot metal and something else. Dust ground fine, sharp on the tongue. No one speaks. The relay chatter resumes, tentative like a throat clearing after silence. The code line hum rises half a note back toward normal. But the mimic board keeps one lamp dark. Track section at mast 7. Dead, waiting. I put the pen down, palm flat on the page until the ink dries. My hand leaves a faint smudge across the margin, like soot. Ryan Keller is no longer in the room, and he isn't in the yard either. It takes 10 minutes for anyone to breathe steady again. Marta sits on the stairwell step with her clipboard tight against her chest. Knuckles pale, pen snapped clean. Harlan leans against the lever bank, staring at number 7 like it's listening back. I keep my eyes on the mimic board. The lamp for mast 7 stays dead. Then it happens. The signals drop, not a slow fade, not a blown fuse. One instant the cabin glows red and green. The next, black. Relay chatter stops cold. The silence it leaves behind isn't silence at all. It's the suction of sound being swallowed. The UPS shrieks high in the corner. A steady electronic scream. My teeth ache with it. Dead signal. Marta gasps. Her voice shakes like the log page under my pen. 7 seconds. The rule hammers in my skull. Keep the signals alive. Dead air isn't air here. It's power gone. Lamps dark. The system dropping guard. I lunge for the breaker rack. The emergency inverter throws off weak light, flickering orange. My hands find switches by memory. Steel cold, stiff. I slam them back to life. Nothing. 5 seconds. On the mimic board, the section lamps stutter once and die. My reflection in the glass is a hollow at 6 seconds. The UPS pitch climbs, thinner, sharper, drilling straight into the ear canal. 7. The intercom light snaps red. It blinks in rhythm. 1 long, 2 short. The pattern of a horn out in the yard. My gut folds. The speaker cracks alive, not static. A voice. Next stop, 1979. A woman's voice. Soft, lilting. Like someone reading a bedtime line. Too calm for the scream of the UPS. Too old-fashioned for any schedule I've logged. Marta covers her ears. Harlan doesn't move. His lips part like he's about to speak, but he doesn't. His eyes never leave the dark lamp at mast 7. The intercom holds the frequency. No hiss, no click, just her voice suspended, like it's waiting for clearance. Next stop, she repeats. 1979. I slam my palm on the breaker panel. Steel hums under my hand. Sparks spit at the bottom row. An arc flash. White light bursts across the cabin, searing the air. The smell of ozone burns the nose, sharp as chlorine. The breaker jumps. Main power cuts. For an instant the tower is blind, blacker than outside. Marta screams, a short sound, choked halfway. I grab the emergency inverter handle and hit it with my fist. Once, twice. On the third strike, the system coughs back. Lamps stagger alive, not all at once, but in choking sequence. Red, green, red. A sick stutter of colors that don't line up with any logic we run. The mimic board shows the blocks alive again, except mast 7. Its lamp stays out. Center black like a pupil. The UPS drops its scream to a low whine. Stabilizing. My ears ring. A hollow echo. The arc left a scar across the panel. a black lightning mark crawling from switch to casing. The smell hangs heavy. The intercom goes quiet. Its red lamp fades but doesn't go dark, like it's holding its breath. Marta crouches in the corner, arms wrapped around her knees. Her clipboard is cracked down the spine. "What the hell was that?" she whispers. Harlan answers without looking. It was her. His hand rests on lever 7. Thumb rubbing the steel grip in circles like polishing a headstone. I write the time in the log. My pen shakes but the ink holds. The page ripples under sweat from my palm. Beside my line, the margin darkens, a faint smear like soot rubbed into the paper. I don't write what I heard. I don't write the year. The cabin holds steady now. Relays chatter again, weak but alive. The hum of the code line runs low, almost shy. The mimic board glows green and red across the sections. Order restored, except for mast 7, always for mast 7. The dead lamp stares back, black in its socket, reflecting a hollowed face, mine. And somewhere in the distance, carried on no air, no yard speaker, no system line, I think I hear it again. Next stop, 1979. The panel still stinks of ozone when Melissa walks in. She's a senior student, works nights twice a week for practicum hours. Always quiet, always early. She carries her recorder like a priest carries beads, thumb rubbing the worn plastic like prayer. She doesn't ask about the blackout. She just slips into the seat at the comms desk, flicks her tape deck on, and starts replaying the night's log as if routine will glue the world back together. The intercom crackles. Not the UPS scream, not static, not the false horn code. A voice. "Dispatcher, this is Glass, Mary Glass, requesting clearance southbound track 7. The voice is wrong for the room, soft, melodic, clipped with that 1970s radio cadence, every syllable clear like it's meant for AM broadcast, not a yard line. It shouldn't fit in the cabin, but it does, warm like fabric over cold metal. Melissa pauses the tape, frowns. "That isn't ours, it's her," Harlan says without looking up. His voice is stone dust. The tape deck keeps running, spooling brown ribbon with no sound but her breath. Mary Glass again, polite as prayer. "Dispatcher, do you copy? Southbound, requesting clearance." Marta grips her clipboard so tight the edge creaks. "Don't acknowledge, you know the rule." But Melissa is green. She's tired. Maybe she thinks it's an archive bleed. Maybe she just wants to prove herself useful. She leans toward the mic, thumb pressing the talk switch. Her voice shakes. "Cleared on track." The cabin hits back instantly. The VU meter slams into red and stays pinned, needle trembling. The mic preamp box under the desk glows. Not indicator glow, heat glow. Metal shifts color toward cherry red, wires bleeding their insulation. Outside, through the windows, the point's motor shrieks alive. Steel on steel, a grating scream. The throw bar slams halfway and jams, stuck in mid-motion, as if a hand bigger than the yard is pulling it and won't let go. Melissa yanks her hand back from the mic. The smell of burning plastic fills the room. Insulation cooking into something bitter that coats the throat. "Shut it," I bark, already moving. The preamp casing is hot enough to hiss when I grab it barehanded. My palm sears instantly, a white sting that eats the skin. I rip the connector free anyway. The mic cuts with a cough. The cabin shudders like something just let go of its throat. For a second, nobody breathes. The mimic board steadies. Lamps flutter back to their pattern, except mast 7, still dark, still the blind socket. The point's motor outside ticks like a dying clock, jammed halfway, smoke rising from its housing. Melissa cradles her hands in her lap, eyes wet but no tears falling. I thought she sounded real. "She is," Harlan mutters. His gaze doesn't leave lever 7. The intercom is dark now, but the tape keeps rolling. Its reels turn without input, whispering the faintest undertone. I catch fragments. A laugh, a line or hum. Words about a dress that didn't sit right at the shoulders. 1979 memories spooling into a cabin 3 decades later. Marta finally speaks, voice like clipped wire. "You just invited her in. You never invite." The smell in the room changes. Burnt insulation lingers, but under it, something sweeter. Like old perfume rubbed into fabric and left in a trunk too long. Faint lilac. Faint dust. Melissa hugs the recorder tight. Her lips move, whispering the request back to herself. Syllables practiced, as if she wants to say them right next time. I wrap my palm with gauze from the first aid tin. The sting throbs with every heartbeat. I don't look at the blister. I keep my eyes on the log. I mark the time. Note the event. I don't write the name. The mimic board glows steady, but the red bleed on the VU meter doesn't fade. It's stuck there, needle against the end stop, trembling as if sound is still pouring in too low for us to hear. Somewhere under the floor, a ballast stone cracks with a dry pop. The cabin shakes once, like steel wheels testing weight on invisible rails. Melissa's recorder clicks off at last. The tape inside is scorched at the edges, brown plastic melted into itself. She doesn't notice. She just stares at the dark mic. The cabin doesn't go back to normal, not really. The floor begins to tick, not a shake, not full vibration, just the steady cadence of wheels on rail, counted out under my boots. I check the mimic board before anyone speaks. ARR light blinks on for track 7. Feather glows green, pointing to the abandoned spur. The relay racks chatter too fast, like teeth grinding. Marta sets her pen down hard and stares at the mimic board. Harlan hasn't moved. His hand already rests on the iron dog of lever number 7, like he's been waiting. Melissa presses her headset tighter over her ears, but her lips move. I know the words, the clearance Mary always whispered on tape. The cadence underfoot builds. My molars buzz. R track 7, Marta says flat. She makes the readback out of reflex. The pen in her hand won't write. She keeps trying, scratching deep into the logbook. The tip bends, no ink. The intercom light blinks. One long pulse, red bleeding through the plastic. The hum of the code line drops low, like someone breathing heavy just outside the glass. Then the voice arrives. This is train 7, requesting clearance. It's a man's voice. Calm, tired maybe. It rides under the floor hum, crouched low as if coming up through ballast. Melissa makes a sound, not words, not sobbing, just breath let out too fast. Then the yard bell goes. Not the warning we trigger with buttons, but the old cast iron bell in the yard below. It peals twice, then cuts off, like a hand strangling the clapper. The silence rings in bone. I hear Harlan's breath hitch, not fear, strain. Lever number 7 latch clicks, just once, clean and loud like something pulled against the spring from the far end. I see his knuckles jump white on the grip, sparks spit at the base plate. The lever moves a notch forward before he leans in with all his weight to hold it down. Not yours, he growls. The sound rips out of him raw. Marta scratches harder at the logbook. The pen leaves grooves. No ink. She mutters the rule under her breath over and over. Do not acknowledge. Do not acknowledge. Her eyes don't leave the mimic board, where track 7 burns green against a black background. Melissa whispers, if we don't answer, he'll keep asking. She doesn't mean to speak loud enough for us, but we all hear. Her lips keep shaping the clearance phrase. Cleared on track 7. Like she's caught between memory and reflex. The floor ticks faster like trucks passing a jointed rail. Invisible weight builds under us. Coal grit stings my nose, though no hopper's gone by. I rub the console with my sleeve. The grit's not there, yet. The intercom light flashes again. Train 7, clearance. The words are firmer now, but not shouted, just a man who expects the board to switch. Harlan snarls and pulls lever. Number 7 back to normal. His boots skid across the grating, steel screeching. Sparks crackle between the latch and the pawl, green arcs that smell like copper melting. His other hand slams the locking dog home. The floor cadence stutters, stops. Silence follows, but not clean. Too thick, too aware. We wait, nobody moves. The mimic board goes black for a breath, then lights again. All tracks clear, except 7. Its lamp stays green, even though the lever's pinned. Wrong. Impossible. The AR light stares, bright and blind. I press my palm to the console, cold. My sleeve drags across something rough. When I lift my hand, there it is, a single black fleck resting in the dust of the console. Coal, real. Melissa whispers, "Was that clearance?" Nobody answers. The steel cabinet in the back corner has its own gravity. Dust holds to it harder than to the walls, like filings to a magnet. The padlock clicks under my thumb. The door swings open, a few inches too fast. Metal shelf sweating cold. Inside, report stacks spine out, edges foxed brown. 40 years of damp seeps in whether you open it or not. The top folder carries the winged wheel. Once stamped crisp, now bled soft. Underneath the logo, typed letters, Accident Inquiry, August 1979. I drag the file out. Paper rasps dry, then soft, like cloth that's been worn through. The sweetness of mold clings to the lungs. Marta hovers close, pen ready, eyes darting between clipboard and mimic board, as if afraid one will blink while she looks away. First page, a carbon copy summary. Express 7, fire on approach. Second, passenger list blacked through, blocks of names drowned under felt tip. At the margin, one word left untouched. Occupancy, 79. Melissa mutters the number under her breath, headset hanging crooked. She says it like she's clearing a call. The same cadence, 79. Then again, louder, 79. Marta hisses at her to log proper, but her pen tip breaks. The scratch stops there. Harlan hasn't moved. He stands a step back, shoulders squared, lips moving with something unsaid. Maybe a name. He's done that before, I don't ask. The cabinet gives another cough of paper when I dig deeper. A photo slips free, half stuck to the backing board. Black and white. Rail cars split open, steel ribs peeled out like fruit tins. Smoke trailing up the valley behind. Below, a clerk's pen. No survivors. My hand drifts to the logbook on the console. The spine creaks. Pages drag themselves like something with weight. It flips without wind, settling flat at August 1979. The same pencil hand that wrote "Don't forget 7" on the rules sheet back in part 1 is there again, scrawled margins, crooked pressure. And this, passenger count, 79. The number is darker than the rest, as if written fresher. I touch the page, a grit comes off on my finger, black and grainy, not graphite, char. Melissa leans in, lips moving silently. I catch fragments, clear on 7. The same clearance phrasing she picked up when Mary's voice cut through tape. Marta grabs her wrist, shakes her, forces her to hold the pen again. Melissa writes a half-formed 79 before the ink blobs and dies. The folder itself warms under my palm, not room heat, internal. The fibers stiffen, then flex like cloth left too close to an iron. Smoke threads leak from the binding. Thin gray that smells not of cardboard this time, but of cloth burned wet, hair singed fast. My chest tightens with the memory of a chimney fire. That acrid cling that stays in clothes for days. The mimic board ticks once. Section lamps along track 7 flicker, then steady out. Each dot green, but dim. Only the mast 7 lamp stays black. Socket glaring like a blind eye. The code line hum dips low, pulls against the air like someone drawing a breath in the wrong place. I drop the file back in the cabinet. The paper smokes even with the door shut. My thumb comes away red as if ink bled through. But when I check the pad, there's nothing, only heat. The logbook closes itself. Marta tries to force it back open, but the covers resist. Shutting with a hollow clap that sounds too much like Blur's walking. She stares at me as if I had the strength to explain it. Outside, the yard grass stops moving, like even the wind refused to count. Lamp stays steady, no sway, no breath. The stillness has its own sound. I sit back, rub the char smear off my fingers against my jeans. The grit leaves a dark streak on the fabric, shiny for a second before dulling out. Harlan finally speaks, voice low, rasped. It always comes back to the number. Melissa echoes him, but hers is thin, breaking. 79. Marta snaps her pencil, splinter crack sharp. She presses a new one to the board, scrawling the digits fast. Ink fights, but holds. I don't add anything. The log already has it. But the number hangs anyway, 79. Shift close to turnover, 358. The cabin carries its own fatigue by then. Relays chatter loose, lamps burn low, code line hum sagging like lungs at the bottom of a shift. Marta stood with the red mug in her hands. The glaze was chipped, rim cracked hairline, ceramic heavy as stone. She held it like memorial glass, her thumb brushing the scar as if over a name on a grave. "You'll place it before you leave," she said, not asking. Ritual voice. I didn't answer. The logbook still bore the smear from my fingertip. The inquiry file was locked, but the number 79 hadn't left the air. Melissa slumped against the wall, headset half off, eyes closed, yet lips twitching with clearance phrases she didn't realize she was still mouthing. Harlan leaned against the lever frame. His palm checked each iron bar in sequence. Only lever, number 7, stayed pinned. Latch hard. His jaw nodded, no commentary left. Marta set the mug down on the console, right where the viper green strip of paint marked its place. She tapped the spot once. Her eyes flicked to me. "Don't forget." The laminate rules above the board caught my glance. In the corner, pencil marks still showed. "Don't forget 7." I pulled my coat on, shut the logbook, turned toward the stairwell, left the mug sitting empty. Rule ignored. I signed it with silence. Hand on the steel bar of the door. Then the hum cut out. Not dimmed. Gone. The silence punched in hard. Relays clicked dead in sequence. Mimic board dots dyed red, yellow, green until nothing but black. Under my boots the slab bent, ballast groan rising like weight settling from nowhere. The tower frame popped at the rivets. I spun. Lever number 7 slid half forward on its own. The latch shrieked, spring torn loose. The interlocking frame clamped, steel teeth snapping. Sparks leapt green at the pawl. The mimic board glared sick white, where track 7 burned alive. Wrong lamp, wrong shape. Marta screamed, slammed her hand on bare console wood where the mug should have stood. The air pressed down. My knees bent without choice, chest compressed as if a train roof had dropped onto the room. Even Harlan groaned, braced against lever. Number 7, his boots skating across the grate. Melissa woke shrieking, clawing at her chest, headset slipping. The stink of hot copper and dust filled the cabin. Windows bowed inward, glass sheets fluttering like something outside breathing. Then the logbook slammed open. Pages rifled themselves, 7 beats exact, stopping on a blank. Date already written, Aug. 1979. Pencil scrawl in the margin, the same crooked hand from the rules sheet from the folded log earlier, "Don't forget." I staggered back. Marta jammed the mug into my chest, too late, ceramic cold. No offering in it. The slab underfoot dropped another inch. Gut-free fall. Like a 100-ton consist breaking right beneath, weight transferred into our bones. Section lamps outside flickered 7 times, each weaker than the last. Dying animal heart, then black. The stairwell door behind me thumped once, coupler impact. Then again, 7 strikes in sequence, glass panes in the windows flexing with each, in-out like breath. We couldn't move. The air nailed us where we stood. Then it quit. No slam, no hum. Just dead pressure. I forced my eyes to the mimic board. One lamp still glowed. Track 7, colorless white, steady. Every other section dark. The red mug sat empty on the console. This time it left no ring, just a smear, darker than coffee, spreading wider across the steel. 4:06 a.m. The cabin was still pressed flat when I picked myself off the grate. Every relay rack dead. Mimic board black, except track 7, steady and wrong. The red mug sat on the console, empty. Smear still spreading like a bloodstain. Marta shoved beans at me, paper packet, corner already torn. "Now," she said, shaking. Her hands trembled so bad half the ground spilled across the floor. The code line hadn't come back. Silence was total, like the yard itself had been erased. No bells, no wind, no insect buzz through cracked glass. Just the thick vacuum waiting to collapse us. I found the old percolator under the shelf, dust slick. Harlan hauled the kettle from the sink, filled it with tap water that clanged against the steel basin. The faucet spat brown, then cleared. He set it on the hot plate. The whole cabin leaned on that hiss. Melissa crouched in the corner, knees hugged, headset dangling. She whispered, lips moving in unison with the water beginning to bubble. "Clearance on track 7. Clearance on track 7. She didn't even realize. Marta slapped her to shut her up. The echo of the slap sounded too loud in the dead cabin. The kettle screamed. I poured into the percolator. Steam hissed. Coffee scent, bitter black, filled the air. Something eased, just barely, the pressure backing off an inch. I filled the red mug to the rim, careful not to spill. The ceramic warmed against my palm, heavy. Marta wiped the console spot clean with her sleeve, smeared the blood-dark stain aside. She tapped the paint stripe. "Place it." I set the mug down on the line, exactly. The ceramic rang faint against steel. The cabin exhaled, relays ticked once, then again. Section lamps outside coughed alive in sequence, reds first, then ambers, then greens, staggering back. The mimic board flickered like a resuscitated heart. The code line hummed faint, then steadied. It buzzed in my jawbone, but it wasn't just hum. Voices braided into it, faint, overlapping, not one language. A chorus just under the current. They whispered as the relays picked up. "7's clear, 7's clear." The intercom lamp glowed red, cycling. Marta grabbed the mic and yanked her hand back, too hot. The lamp stayed solid. My wristwatch trembled on my arm. Second hand juddered. The wall clock above the board ticked backwards. 4:07, 4:06, 4:05. 3 minutes rewound and 30 seconds flat. When the hand snapped back to present time, every relay rack jumped like a vertebra cracked in place. Lever number 7 shrieked. The latch flung free, then snapped back in. Sparks spat blue across the floor, arcing between iron bars. The whole frame shook, dogs slamming home. The red mug steamed steady, untouched. Melissa whimpered. It worked. Harlan didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the clock, still quivering. His lips moved, maybe counting, maybe a name. Marta pressed her sleeve over the console, wiping sweat. She wrote in the logbook, quick, pen shaking. Reset performed, 4:09, offering accepted. The page smoked faint where she pressed. The ink ran thin, like it bled into coal dust. I forced myself to look out the windows. Section lamps burned alive again. All except mast 7. Still black. A socket like a blind eye, staring. The cabin smelled of bitter coffee, ozone, hot iron. Steam ghosted across the lever frame. For a moment, it almost felt normal again. Relays alive, mimic board lit, hummed steady, almost. I knew better. The voices still threaded the code line, too low for words, but too many mouths for silence. The red mug sat where it had to, steam curling, glaze cracked. I didn't touch it. It is 2:44. CCTV screens bloom white and settle into gray. Top left camera, yard mast east, grainy and washed, shows Ryan. Standing at the marker on the rails, the same boy we lost 3 shifts ago. Same jacket, collar turned up, head cocked like he was listening to something I can't hear. His outline pulses like the feed is running through water. Still, the rails under him look hard. Metallic, too solid to fake. Marta sees it first. Clipboard clatters. She lunges toward the stair door. "Stay inside," Harlan barks, his voice is iron. She spins back, eyes wet. "He's out there." "He's not," Harlan cuts. One hand braced on lever frame, knuckles white. I keep logging. Subject, Ryan Keller. Location, yard mast 7. Pen scratches against paper, catches grit. Melissa whimpers. "He's waiting clearance, you can't leave him outside." The CCTV whites out in lines, then resolves sharper. Ryan raises a hand, palm toward the camera, as if pressing the glass from the other side. For a moment, I swear it's not a wave, it's a push, like he wants back in. Marta shoves the stair door lever down halfway. Harlan slams it shut. Steel echoes through the tower. She curses, claws at him, then pulls back, trembling. "He's at the marker," she says again. "No," Harlan growls. "He's bait." It is 3 o'clock. Ballast under our feet flexes. Not imagination. The tower floor rocks half an inch. Axle counter on mimic board ticks up +1, though no wheels crossed, then +2. Home signal northbound clicks, lamp flips to green, proceed, but there's no consist scheduled. Marta stares at it like it's divine sanction. We have to. We do nothing, Harlan says. On screen, Ryan steps across the tie. Camera desyncs, picture tearing horizontally like a bad splice. His body halved for a second, stitched back. He waits on the rail. Melissa is mumbling clearance phrases again. Clear track, cleared and locked, all points normal. Her headset isn't even plugged. She doesn't stop until Marta slaps her. It is 3:04. Coal dust shakes from overhead beams. Air tastes metallic, bitter like cut battery. The floor surges. All four of us grab something. Marta clutching clipboard. Melissa headset cord. Harlan lever frame. Me, pen. CCTV flashes brighter. The white glow shapes into headlamps. Phantom consist inbound. Rail beneath Ryan shines green-white heat shimmer. He doesn't move, just stares. His mouth opens like he's asking for something. No sound in here. Marta sobs, shoves her fist against her teeth. Cameras jump frames. Ryan turns sideways, bracing as if to board. Then the Phantom hits. The consist passes straight through him. Dozen cars sparks and blur all in 7 seconds. Each cut in the video slices him thinner. For a blink he's folded like paper between rails. Then he's gone. CCTV glitches vertical, screen rips to snow, then steadies. Empty ballast. Only residue, a horizontal smear of static across the feed. It hangs like the silhouette of a boxcar, drifting, then fades. It is 3:09. Yard outside silent. No wheel squeal, no bells. Relay chatter settles low. Code line hum breathes again, cautious. Marta slumps against console. Clipboard slips from her hand, hits the floor. She doesn't pick it up. Melissa curls into chair, headset cord knotted in fingers, still whispering, cleared, cleared. Harlan stands frozen. Lever hand trembling, but he hasn't let go, his eyes fixed on the dead mast. Lamp black as coal. I write CCTV, subject erased, signal false proceed, axle counter false positive +2. Reset pending. The page shakes under my pen, ink blurs, line bends, I don't look at them. I keep writing. Rule 1 repeats in my head, same cadence as laminate on the wall, stay inside. I think of Ryan's hand on the glass, the smear across CCTV like a phantom boxcar, tearing the picture as it fades. 3:27. The intercom kicks alive on its own, red lamp trembling. Not Mary this time, not clearance voices layered in static. It's Ryan. Clear on track 7, his tone is steady, unhurried, but the bed of noise underneath carries wheel scream and tunnel wind. A metallic clatter, loose bolt or washer rolling in a dark carriage, rattles through the speaker. Marta stiffens. Melissa whimpers, clamps hands over ears. Harlan's jaw goes iron. I log. Intercom unsolicited. Voice match. Keller Ryan. 3:29. My lips start counting down. I don't decide to. My mouth just does it. 5, 4, 3. And the cabin answers. Relay chatter shapes into syllables joining in. Each tick and hum becomes a number whispered back. 4 voices layered into one chorus. Melissa cries out, begging me to stop, but I can't. Harlan seizes my shoulder, shakes hard. Ward, cut it. But the count presses on. 3:30. Lever number 7 shudders in its frame. The latch kicks halfway. Iron dog half set. It groans like bone being turned wrong. Ryan's voice sharpens, closer now. Clearance granted. 7 is clear. Come on, I'm waiting. The mimic board throws a green feather across the abandoned spur. Section lamps hesitate, then blink like eyes opening on an old scar. Marta screams, "Don't touch it!" But my hand is already reaching. I don't even feel the decision. Pen drops from fingers. Palm lays against steel. Warm, impossibly warm, as though someone's grip met mine from the other side. 3:32. For a breath I see him, not on the CCTV, not in the yard, but right here. Face overlaid on the steel. Ryan's features burn white-green, lit from below like a ghost fire. His mouth moves, words aligned with the relay hum. Help me through. Just one pull. I push harder. Lever creaks another notch, sparks spit from contact tips below. Melissa shrieks, collapses back. Marta claws for my arm, she can't budge me. Harlan steps in. His hand crushes down over mine, grinding bone. No, I resist. His eyes flit with something I've never seen. Fear, anger, grief folded together. Then he does something worse. He says a name. 334. Caleb, he breathes. Not loud, not meant for me, just leaks out, his lips trembling. The hum spikes. Logbook flips pages on its own, riffling until it stops under August 1979 again. Passenger count scrawled raw across the page. 79. Ash dust sifts into the air like the numbers burned through paper. Lever tries to leap forward. Harlan and I strain backward together, our hands fused by sweat, steel hot enough to sting. For a second, I think we'll lose it. Dog latch almost free. Wind whistles through the window's seams, though all glass is shut. But Harlan growls Caleb's name again, louder, grinding his teeth. He heaves. Together we slam the lever back to normal. 336. Locking dog catches with a shriek of iron on iron. Sparks flinch blue-green. The mimic board feather sputters out. Section lamps blink red, steady again. The intercom howls once, Ryan's voice warped into a roar, then cuts dead. Silence hammers down. Marta sobs into both hands. Melissa rocks on her chair, headset cord wrapped around her wrists. Harlan leans against the lever frame, shoulders shaking. He doesn't look at us, just keeps whispering Caleb's name, like a prayer or a curse. 338. I pick up the pen from the floor. Write with hand, still trembling, attempted clearance by deceased subject. Lever number 7 half thrown. Intercom echo. Intervention. Harlan. Ink blots like a coal smear across the line. I don't add what I felt when my hand touched steel. How alive it was. How it seemed to squeeze back. Veins standing out under the mimic board's green glow, while the name Caleb hangs in the air, thin as breath, caught inside the cabin. 4:41 a.m. Harlan hands in his key. He doesn't say anything, just presses the metal into my palm, turns away. 40 years in and out of this cabin, and he leaves like it's nothing. Coat collar up, boots slow on the stairwell. He never looks back. The red mug stays on the shelf. Marta set it there for him, but he wouldn't touch it. Not mine anymore, he said. His last words in the cabin. 4:59 a.m. I'm alone. For the first time. Checklist laminated, taped over with red stripe. FAA procedure on one side, night rules on the other. My breath fogs the plastic. I run through them aloud. One by one, I keep my voice even. Rule 1, never leave the cabin. Rule 2, keep the signals alive. Rule 3, do not acknowledge Station 7. Rule 4, make the offering. 5:02 a.m. The code line hum shifts. I hear it catch. Relays stagger out of rhythm, like vertebrae slipping. All 4 at once. UPS clicks over. Dead signal. Section lamps gutter black. Board shadows cut deep. Silence isn't silence, it's suction. Intercom lights. Red. A woman's voice coaxes out. Velvet soft, full of static and warmth. Mary Glass. Clearance please, track 7. You always loved my voice, don't let it die. CCTV pulses, screen tears. Ryan in the yard again, hand up, lips moving, smile wide. Door closer ticks. 7 knocks, brass-toothed ratchet moving with no hand on it. And the mimic board's spur throws green across the panel. Lever number 7 trembles in its socket. All 4 together. 5:05 a.m. The floor sways. Like a train stopped directly under the cabin, air pressure rising through the joists. Dust falls from the rafters in lines, like rain. Mary's voice rises above the hum. Clearance. We are waiting. Ryan's echo overlaps her. Clear on 7. CCTV shows him halved and stitched again, like before. He reaches straight through the lens, palm up. The door knocks a 7th time and stays pressed, rattling. Lever number 7 jerks, half thrown without my hand. Steel dog screaming. I log quick. All phenomena simultaneous. 5:05. 5:06 a.m. My hand shakes. I pick up the red mug. Brew already black inside, scummed from the hours it sat. It doesn't matter. I step to the paint mark by the door. Place it down exact. Relays chatter. Lamps cough back alive in staggered chorus. Board flickers like a heart restarted. The intercom hisses static. Voices braid into one word. 7. The lever kicks forward, almost free. I slap my palm against it. Heat stings my skin. I shove it back with all I have. Mary pleads in my ear, "Just say yes." Just one word. Ryan's smile on the CCTV burns white-green, lit from below, mouth stretching open. The door closer ratchets a final tooth. I lean into the steel. Muscles shake, my breath ragged. Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3, Rule 4. I speak them out loud as if rules themselves could weigh me down. The latchdog screams, then locks. Lever back to normal. 5:09 a.m. The hum steadies. Relays tick as though nothing happened. Section lamps glow red stable, CCTV flat gray, door closer still. But the intercom whispers on, softer now. No, not Mary, not Ryan. A voice that isn't mine writes through my ears. Shift completed. Keller, Ryan. 5:12 a.m. I open the logbook. My handwriting ends at 5:09. Below it, new line. Same pen, same ink, but I didn't write it. Shift completed. Keller, Ryan. The letters sink darker, red leaking as if ink turned blood, spreading into the paper grain. 5:14 a.m. The hum grows long, not code line hum anymore, but something deeper, like a held note inside the steel. The drone that doesn't fade, it swells, fills the cabin, fills my chest. Outside, the grade crossing bell answers once, a single ding, faint, far, then nothing. 5:15 a.m., silence again. Section lamps blink once, soft like an eye closing, then stay dark. Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to Dr. Noctis for more horror stories from the dark.